The day I got out of prison, I walked 10 miles to the place I used to call home, only to find the door deadbolt, a note screaming, "Stay gone. We replace you with a real son," and laughter inside. I called my father, picked up, heard my voice, and spat, "You're a disgrace. You're dead to us. Don't ever show your face again." Then he hung up without a second thought. I just grinned and didn't knock. I left one thing on the porch. Now they won't stop begging. "Please forgive us. We made a mistake. You're still our child." I'm 28 and was recently released after nearly 2 years. It wasn't anything extreme, not like some major offense, just a bar altercation that escalated significantly. An unfortunate confluence of circumstances, and I was the one who faced the most severe consequences, partly because my father has always been perceived as a pillar of the community and am essentially the family outlier. I always imagined getting out would be strange, but not quite like this. Anyway, I didn't have anyone picking me up. It wasn't a surprise. My mother stopped writing about a year ago, which was, frankly, the most significant indication that something was amiss. I still had a house address committed to muscle memory, so I figured just walk it about 10 miles. Not the end of the world. Even if I arrived looking utterly exhausted, my appearance was far from presentable. In the clothes they gave me, carrying my small clear bag, there was absolutely zero dignity in it. People tend to stare when a guy looks like he's just emerged from a difficult situation, but regardless, I had one pair of earbuds left that still functioned, so I just played old playlists and retreated in my own world. But the strange thing walking up my old street, I noticed the house looked different. Not as if it had been neglected or anything, but the front yard was too neat, like someone had actually trimmed the hedges meticulously. There were new curtains in the living room window. My mother never particularly cared about that sort of thing, and my father certainly did. There was a car in the driveway that I didn't recognize. Not even an expensive car, just some older sedan, but still the whole atmosphere just fell off as if someone else resided there. Now, I suppose I should have been prepared for it, but I was. I fumbled with my keys, the same ones ID had since high school, and tried the door. The deadbolt stopped me abruptly. I could hear voices inside. Actual laughter. But not my mother's, definitely not my father's. Just voices. I knocked once, then realized there was something taped to the glass. It was an unattractive neon sticky note. I could tell my father, Robert, wrote it because he always uses all capital letters, perhaps thinking it makes him sound more serious. It read, and I quote, "Stay gone. We replaced you with a real son." Yes, genuinely, who behaves in such a man? I was just standing there, feeling like the most foolish person on earth. The voices inside grew louder, as if they were purposely ignoring me. I knocked again, harder, and that's when I heard someone say, "Just leave it. Don't answer." That was definitely my father. I don't think I've ever felt such a profound sense of dismay in my life. It wasn't even sadness, just this cold. "Are you genuinely doing this kind of disbelief?" I could hear someone else laughing a man's laugh, but not anyone I knew. I didn't even want to see their faces at that point. I took out my phone. Yes, an older model, so it's rather bulky, and called the house. I didn't even know if they kept the number, but it was worth a try. After 2 rings, my father picked up. He didn't say hello, just ooted. "What do you want?" As if I hadn't existed for a year. I told him it was me, Alex. There was a silence. Then he just said, "You are a disappointment. You're no longer a part of this family. Don't ever show your face here again." Then he hung up. No hesitation. No, "I'm sorry," nothing. I just kind of stood there. I guess I expected it, but not like that. He sounded like he wanted to completely sever ties. I could feel my fist clenching without even thinking about it. I wanted to express my frustration. But I just looked at that ridiculous note again, and I started to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. Like who replaces their own child and puts it in writing. I stepped back, looked around, and realized the neighbor across the street, Ms. Davis, was watching me from behind her blinds. Typical. Then I heard a thud inside, like someone shoved a chair or something. The laughter stopped. I could hear my mother, Linda, saying something, but I couldn't make it. I just stood there for another minute, not sure what I was even doing. Then pulled out my old keychain and took off my house key. I left it right on the porch on top of that note and just walked away. I didn't slam the door or anything because I never got inside. I just left my key because honestly, what was the point? They had already made their stance clear. I heard someone inside say, "He's finally leaving." And then a door slammed. I walked down the street, and I didn't look back. I was upset, but not overcome with sadness. Not even embarrassed. Just done. A couple of blocks away, I checked my phone and had about 3 missed calls from a number I didn't know. I guess word travels fast in this neighborhood. Then I got a text from Ben, a guy someone grew up with. Not really a close friend, but the only one who never treated me completely poorly when I made mistakes. He said, "Yo, saw you outside. You okay?" I just texted back, "Depend what you mean by okay. Am not in dire straits, but that's about it." He sent back a concerned emoji and told me if I needed a place to stay for a bit to let him know. I said I'd figure something out. I kept walking with no clear destination in my. I just knew I wasn't sticking around to be further humiliated by people who never seemed to offer much support in the first place. I started thinking about that real son Min and who was actually in the house. I know my father has always wanted a golden boy, someone who didn't make mistakes, didn't cause him embarrassment. I'm pretty sure he found some way to make that happen for himself. It wouldn't be past him to move in some distant relative or acquaintance just to keep up appearance. He's always cared more about looking good than actually being good anyway. I know how my father operates. He thinks he can just erase people who make him look bad. He did the same thing with his own brother years ago over some foolish argument about money. My mother always went along with it, even though I could tell she disliked it. Now I guess I'm just another person he's erased. So I didn't knock again. I didn't try the window. I just left what I had to leave and walked away. But I wasn't just going to let this go. Not even close. I already started thinking about what steps I could take to ensure they understood the gravity of their actions. I'm not above asserting my position, especially when someone goes out of their way to cause such distress if they want to handle things this way. I know certain aspects of the family situation, certain vulnerabilities. I wasn't just going to roll over. I guess I'll update if people are interested. But for now, just know I have zero intention of simply forgiving or forgetting. They wanted a real, they might see what that means when the one they had decides to no longer enable their behavior. After I left my key and that note on the porch, I stayed at Ben's for the night. I wasn't even going to bother with my family again that day. But Ben kept asking what on earth happened and why my father acted like that. I didn't have any real answers. I mean, my father has always been a controlling person, but this was a whole new level. I woke up to about 4 unread texts from numbers I didn't have saved, all basically saying don't come back or just containing silence. Not even my mother's number, just dead air. Ben made coffee and just went straight into it. "You know your dad's got this new young man living there, right?" I kind of laughed and said, "What? Did he order a replacement online?" Ben just shrugged and said, "Not like that. But there's this guy Leo, moved in about a year ago. Apparently he's the son of some family friends who moved out of state and left him behind, and my dad stepped in." Total look at me being a hero type of situation. I just kind of stared at the wall for a moment. I barely remembered Leo. He was always quiet, always did whatever adults told him. I asked if he was the one laughing yesterday, but Ben said he didn't know. So hey race where it got even stranger. Apparently my father has been telling everyone that I'm gone for good, and Leo is like the new golden boy. He tells people Leo is respectful, helps around the house, never causes drama, and doesn't embarrass the family. Classic. My father always cared more about what the neighbors thought than anything his actual child was. I guess my period of incarceration was all it took for him to just swap me out and pretend it never happened. Ben said he overheard my father at the store one time just completely speaking negatively about me, saying I was a lost cause and he was lucky to have a second chance. Like I'm an old phone, you just upgrade. I asked if my mother ever said anything, and he just shrugged. She barely comes out anymore, doesn't go to the church events, doesn't join the block group chats, nothing. I don't blame her for wanting to avoid the situation, but it's still a poor way to handle things. Honestly, the more Ben talked, the more frustrated I got. I started thinking about all the trivial things my father used to get upset about. Like one time I forgot to mow the lawn, and he acted like I'd set the house on fire. Head slammed the garage door, shout about respect and discipline, but never once asked what was actually going on with me. He never resorted to physical discipline, but had throw objects just to make his point. He always had to win, no matter what. The real reason he resents me, it's actually simple. He can't stand looking bad anytime I made a mistake, got a bad grade, lost a job, whatever it was about how I made him look. The bar incident was just the final straw. He showed up at the station, didn't even ask if I was okay. Just ranted about how ID ruined his reputation. Told the officers I was no son of. I guess that's all it took. So, yeah, Leo was the perfect solution for my father, not his biological son. So if he makes a mistake, it's not a direct reflection. If he acts perfectly, my father gets to brag about saving someone. An easy win for his image. I get why Leo went along with it too. He needed a place, my father needed a prop, and nobody really cared what I wanted or thought. After hearing all this, I started thinking about what I could actually do to address the situation. Not just passively, like blocking their numbers or moving away. I wanted them to understand the consequences of their actions. I started making a mental list of all the information I knew about my family's affairs that nobody else did. Like the fact that my father is significantly behind on property taxes, or that he's been keeping funds from my mother for years in these obscure rainy day accounts. I had set up a lot of their household services online before I went away, and I knew all the password. I wasn't planning to do anything unlawful, but I certainly wasn't going to continue making things easy for them. Later that day, I went back by the house just to see if my key was still there. It was gone, but the note was crumpled up by the door. I saw Leo through the window, just sitting at the kitchen table, looking at his phone. He looked up, saw me, and promptly got up and closed the blinds. Didn't even acknowledge me. I guess he's just doing what my father tells him. But still, it was a clear mess. I knocked just once and nobody answered. I started to walk away, but the door cracked open. My father was standing there, not even trying to hide his anger. He said I needed to leave, that I was making a scene, and that I wasn't welcome. I told him I just wanted to talk to my mother. He said she didn't want to see me, but I could hear her voice in the background. I said, I'm not here to cause trouble, but I'm not just disappearing because you replaced me. He stepped outside, pushed me back off the porch, and said if I came back again, Head called the authority. I moved his hand away and told him to go ahead. He slammed the door. I honestly don't care anymore if I look like the bad guy in their eyes. Not going to let him just act like none of this happened. I texted Ben after and told him I was done trying to be conciliatory. He said, serious, you should make them understand the impact. I said, watch me. So here's what I started doing. I logged into all the online accounts I had set up for the house. I didn't delete anything, but I made sure that only I could reset the Wii and the smart home system access, which I had initially configured and in part paid for. Yes, it might seem minor, but it's just the start of me reasserting boundary. I also know exactly when the property tax is due, and I might have made an anonymous tip to the relevant office that the bill was overdue. Nothing illegal, just ensuring that responsibilities are met. I called my Aunt Carol, who has always been the only one in the family who speaks plainly to my father about his behavior. I told her everything. She was very upset, not at me, but at him. She said she had talked to my mother, see what was really going on. I don't expect miracles, but at least now the family knows my side of the story. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm not finished. I'm tired of being the one who has to just move on while everyone else gets to pretend they're the injured party. And not saying I'm perfect, but I'm done being the scapegoat. If you're reading this and thinking I should just let it go, you're probably right from a certain perspective, but that's not me. I'm not focused on healing in a passive way right now. I'm focused on ensuring my father understands the full consequences of the situation he created. He wanted a replacement. Fine. Let's see how long that arrangement holds up when things start to unravel due to his own choices. I'm not out here for sympathy, just letting people know it's not always some TV drama. Sometimes it's just messy, unfortunate, and very real. He'll update again when things actually start to reach a critical point for him. Believe me, it's come. I was walking by the house about 2 days after I adjusted the Wii and other tech access I had previously managed. Again, nothing unlawful. I had literally set it all up and paid for aspects of it. Before I went away, I saw Leo standing in the doorway holding the router, looking like he was about to tear his hair out. My father was out front, raising his voice at him, not even trying to keep it down. It was some classic, you can't even do this one simple thing, right energy. I just kept walking. I didn't even feel a shred of guilt, to be honest. Then I started getting these random calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Not just family, but like people from neighborhood. One of them was Mrs. Davis from across the street, who used to give me Halloween candy when I was a kid. She was, all your father's been acting strangely. Is everything okay over there? I just told her I didn't live there anymore, and she seemed surprised. I could tell she was looking for gossip, but I wasn't providing any. Still, it's kind of amusing how fast people notice when things aren't picture perfect. At my father's house, Ben kept texting me updates. Apparently, my father was extremely agitated because the online bill pay for the house stopped working correctly since I was no longer managing it with my linked accounts, and the water got temporarily shut off for about half a day. Again, all I did was remove my name and payment method from accounts I had previously set up for them. Since he never bothered to learn how any of it worked, he was just stuck. Ben said Leo tried to fix it, but just ended up calling my Aunt Carol in a pee. Aunt Carol then called my father, and they got into a heated discussion on the phone. She told him she knew the whole situation now and wasn't going to cover for his behavior. My father hung up on her. Then she called me just to check in, and I told her straight up that I wasn't sorry for any of the fallout he was experiencing due to his own choices. She said she didn't blame me. The most surprising part, my mother tried to text me for the first time in over a year. She just said, "Can we?" I ignored it, not out of spite, but because I don't feel like being their emotional crutch or scapegoat. I'm not here to fix their mess. I heard from Ben that she's barely talking to my father now, and she apparently confronted him very loudly in front of Leo last night. Apparently, she struck the kitchen table so hard it made Leo jump. My father slammed the back door and stormed out. I don't even know what they argue about anymore, but it's probably not directly about me. They don't really argue about people, just about who gets to be right. The dominoes started falling for real when I got a call from this guy, Mike, who used to hang out with my father at card games. He directly asked if I was coming to the family get-together next week, and I said no, I didn't receive an invitation. He was quiet for a minute and then just said, "Sorry, man. I heard things are difficult." So yes, word is getting out. Then Aunt Carol called again and said my father had tried to borrow money from her. She refused. He became very angry and started yelling at her. So she hung. Aunt Carol doesn't tolerate his nonsense. She never has. I guess my father thought he could just smooth everything over by pretending nothing happened. But now he's running out of options. I know for a fact he's been using the rainy day money I mentioned before, and that's almost gone. The best part, Leo messaged me on Instagram, which is a surprise since I haven't even looked at that app in months. He just asked if there was a way to fix the home because he needs it for school, and it's been down for days. I left him on I won't lie. Part of me felt a sliver of sympathy, but then I remembered how quickly he closed the blinds on me, and I just let that feeling pass. Last night, Ben texted me from across the street. He said there was a full-blown screaming match happening in my old house. My father was yelling about money. Leo was yelling back that he wasn't a tech expert, and my mother was crying. At one point, Ben said he heard a door slam so hard the windows rattled. He said he almost called the authorities, but didn't want to get involved. Honestly, I wish I could have seen the resolution or lack thereof. I know people probably think I should feel guilty, but honestly, I just feel my actions were a justified response to how I was treated. Like, this is what happens when you treat people poorly and think you can just replace them without consequence. My father wanted a perfect life, a picture for the neighbors, a real son. Well, now he has to deal with real problems stemming from his choices. I didn't break any law. I didn't do anything that wasn't already my responsibility or tied to accounts I managed before I went away. I'm just not covering for him anymore. I'm not even done addressing this yet. I'm considering making sure all the financial information he hid from my mother comes to life. Not in a way that gets me in trouble, just enough that she finally sees the reality of his deal. I know exactly where he keeps his old receipts and notes, and am not above discreetly sharing copies of those with Aunt Carol if I have to ensure transparency. The family is divided. Aunt Carol is on my side, understanding the situation. My mother is somewhere in between, likely distressed. Leo is just trying to navigate a difficult environment, and my father, he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. Honestly, watching all this play out, I'm not sure how it ends, but I am not stopping my efforts to ensure accountability. Not until they understand what it feels like to be dismissed and disregarded. Not until my father comprehends that you can't just erase people and expect no one to notice or react. My hope is that they eventually understand the impact of their actions. I'll update when there's a significant development or resolution to this situation.